Assalamu alaikum everyone, hope you're doing well, and finally the exam day has arrived. Tomorrow you have exam and I wish all of you very best of luck. And in this video I'll explain you March 2024 exam paper 1, and this video is for AS level economics students. And I'll make one more video in which I'll try to figure out the important things that can be tested in P1 exam tomorrow, inshallah. And I believe you will stay connected. And furthermore, if you want to get maximum benefit out of this channel, then I have created different playlists. Go to them and watch the latest videos, especially for paper 1 exam series. So there are separate playlists for AS economics paper 1 and paper 2 and A2 economics paper 3 and 4, and for igcse and O levels there are separate playlists. Okay, so let's move on to this question paper. Question number 1 says, why does a production possibility curve exist for every economy? And the scheme is, you can stop the video, read the question carefully, read all the given options. I'll try to explain all of the options, but sometimes it is really tough to explain all of them, so I'll definitely explain the correct option. But if the video is not getting so longer, then I'll explain all other options as well, or in some cases I'll explain all of the options, and in some cases I'll explain only the correct option. So if you feel any difficulty in any of other options, there is confusion, then you can write in the comment and you may ask me to explain that as well. So I hope you understand that there is basically a time limitation for that. Explaining all of the options is sometimes not possible, so I'll try to make it as early as possible, as soon as possible, so that you understand how to answer these questions. Question number 1 says, why does a production possibility curve exist for an economy? Resources are unlimited. So this is not correct, because resources are always limited. And this third option is, some resources can be imported, and it doesn't mean it doesn't have any explanation regarding production possibility curve. So this has nothing to do with PPC. And some resources may be unemployed. Unemployment can be shown with PPC, but unemployment is not the reason for the existence of PPC. PPC is basically the graph that shows different combinations of two products that can be produced with the help of given resources, and the boundary of resources is limited. Let's say this is the boundary of resources OAB, right? So OAB shows that if we want to produce more of X good, then we will have to reduce the production of Y good. So the same resource has alternative uses to produce X good or Y good. So option B is the correct option as per these given options. However, it depends what type of options examiner is giving to you. Now moving to question number 2, and it says, which statement is a normative statement? Normative statements are the statements that are based on opinion, right? And they are based on value judgments. They are not factual, right? There are two types of statements. One is called positive statements and the other one is called normative statements. Positive statements are based on facts and figures and can be proved to be right or wrong. And normative statements are the opinions of someone's, and they cannot be proven to be right or wrong. They are just judgment of someone. So option D is correct answer for this question number 2. And unsustainable economic growth is more harmful to an economy than hyperinflation. So something being more harmful or less harmful, this is the opinion of someone, right? So it shows opinion. All other options are basically positive statements. What other terms basically examiner uses for showing a normative statements include welfare, right? So if examiner uses the word welfare in the statement of answer, then you can pick that. If examiner uses the word should, it shows opinion. If examiner talks about qualitative statements are always normative statements. And harmfulness, usefulness, harmfulness, usefulness, deservingness. These are the words, kind of words that general examiner uses for normative statements. So all other options are factual and only D option is opinion of someone. Question number 3 says, which combination best describes a basic economic problem? Basic economic problem means scarcity of resources, means resources are limited while wants are unlimited. So it is the basic definition of scarcity or basic economic problem that resources are limited while wants are unlimited. So for question number 3, option B is the correct answer because resources are limited and wants are unlimited. So this is a simple question, so I need not to explain other options. I believe if you feel any difficulty in any other option, then just approach to me through comments. And next question is question number 4. What is the main reason an economy is unlikely to rely completely on market forces? Market forces means the forces of demand and supply, where resources are allocated through the free market economy or private individuals and companies. So all other things are likely reasons. One reason is unlikely, right? For which like economy is unlikely to rely completely on market forces. So for question number 4, answer is D, and I'll explain other options as well because I believe these are a little confusing options. So option D is correct. Public goods will not be supplied. So economy does not is unlikely to rely on market forces because market forces do not sufficiently produce public goods. Public goods are the goods that are non-excludable and non-rival, just like street lights, like etc. Say you can talk about national highways, like defense system. These are the things, and street light as well. These are the things that are run by the government generally instead of market forces. So this is unlikely in market forces. So you may be like confused with option A and B as well. Demerit goods will be oversupplied, merit goods will be undersupplied. So these two options resemble each other because demerit goods are private sector definitely overproduces them and underproduces merit goods. So these two options are also correct, but they are produced by the market forces or free market economy. So free market economy produces demerit goods as well as, since these come under the category of private goods. And option C is also a private good. So these three goods are private goods, so they are exactly the same thing but with different variations of the statements. And option D is a different type of good, that is public good, that is unlikely to be produced by the market forces. And now moving to question number 5. What is the opportunity cost to a person of spending $20 on a new pair of sports shoes? Right, so he has $20, and what will be the opportunity cost if he uses these $20 to purchase pair of sports shoes? Okay, so option D is the correct answer for this question. The next best thing that could have been bought with $20. So you have $20. For example, you had the option to purchase sports shoes, or you could have watched a movie in cinema. So watching movie would be the next best option that you will sacrifice. I believe you will understand all other options. They are really simple. So if you have any ambiguity with any of them, then write in the comment. And question number 6 is, what is the definition of effective demand? Effective demand is the kind of demand for which consumer has sufficient resources to pay for. So option B is correct by definition, because like demand is the desire supported by willingness and ability to pay. So demand that is supported by ability to pay. If person has sufficient amount of money to pay for it, then it will make the demand effective. The other options, option B is correct answer. Let's have a look on the other options as well. Demand that is speculative. Speculative demand is not effective demand, because speculation is just estimation and expectations. and expectations cannot be converted into demand always. So the relationship between price and quantity demand, this is the definition of law of demand instead of just demand. So the total amount demanded by the consumer, this is again like not the total, there is not definitely the effective demand always. So the best option is option B for this question, right? So moving to question number 7. Question number 7 says that the price elasticity of demand for a good X is minus 2.4. When the answer is greater than 1, negative sign just shows negative relationship between two goods, between price and quantity demand, and 2.4 is greater than 1. So PED of this product is greater than 1. And when PED is greater than 1, it means demand is elastic. So if we look into this first condition, then you can see that price elastic demand, so this can be the correct option. Price inelastic demand, so we will cross it. Price elastic demand, so it can be correct. Price inelastic, so we can cross it. So we come to know from this value 2.4 that PED is greater than 1, so it is elastic. And now moving to income elasticity of demand is minus 0.4. Minus, when income elasticity of demand is YD is negative, YAD is negative, then it shows that the good is an inferior good, because if income increases, demand will fall, and it happens in case of inferior goods that are low quality products. So we have already shortlisted option A and C. So in option A it says inferior good, and in option C it says normal good. So we will cross these options, and the correct option is option A. But we will not stop here, we will look into the other condition as well. And the cross elasticity of demand for X with respect to Y is plus 0.2. When cross elasticity of demand is positive, it means the goods are substitute to each other, right? Substitutes like Coke and Pepsi. Coke and Pepsi have like positive cross elasticity of demand with each other. For example, if price of Coke increases, the demand for Pepsi will increase, because now Coke is expensive, so people will start buying more Pepsi. So both variables are increasing at the same time, so it is positive relationship. And substitute for good Y, so these goods are substitute as well. So option A is finally correct, so we will choose that. Now moving to question number 8, and question number 8 is a little bit tricky and a little different as well. The diagram shows two straight line demand curves X and Y, which what is correct about curve X and Y? Okay, so keep in mind one important thing, that if the demand curve is a straight line like this and connecting both axes, then in the middle of this graph PED is equal to 1, and before that PED is greater than 1, and after that PED is less than 1. So similarly, if we find out the middle points, let's say the middle point of this graph is E, and the middle point of this graph is, let's say, E1, right? So at this point E, elasticity will be equal to 1, and at this point E, elasticity will also be equal to 1, unitary elastic demand. And before this point elasticity will be greater than 1, after that it will be lesser than 1. Same is the case with X. If we move this word, elasticity will increase. If we move this one, rightward, then elasticity will decrease. So this is the basic concept, right? So you should keep it in mind. And further moving to the other thing that examiner has said, examiner says that what is correct about X and Y, both X and Y are unit price elastic over the whole length. As I have told you earlier that along the same demand curve, when it is a straight line, there are three elasticities. So they are not always unitary elastic, rather in the middle elasticity is unitary, and before that it is elastic, and after that it is inelastic. So we can obviously cross option A. Option B says that X and Y have same elasticity at every price. So at every price elasticity of demand is different, not the same, so we will cross it as well. Option D says Y is more likely to have substitute than X. So there is no evidence here, because we have like quantity on X and price on Y. So this is a simple demand curve of a certain product, and there is not necessary condition that they are substitute products X and Y. Okay, so option C would be correct. Through elimination method we reached option C, but we will prove that C is the correct answer. Okay, so X has a higher price elasticity than Y at every price, right? So if we look into the price, for example, a certain price, for example, if we look into the price at this level, for example, this is price, and at this price elasticity of demand at Y is equal to 1, but at X it would be greater than 1. At price P it would be greater than 1, because elasticity at X is equal to 1 at this point, and when we move to the left hand side, this area basically shows elastic demand. And so we will say that X has higher price elasticity of demand than Y at every price, right? So this is how you can approach to this question. And now moving to question number 9. Question number 9 says the price elasticity of supply of yogurt is estimated to be plus 1.5, that is elastic. When elasticity is greater than 1, it is called elastic demand, right? And if the demand for yogurt rises and price rises by 20%, how much more will be supplied to the market? So keep in mind, elastic supply is when a change in price leads to more than proportionate change in quantity demand or quantity supplied, right? So demand is elastic, so 20% increase in price will lead to more than 20% change in quantity supplied. If it is price elasticity of demand, then we will use more change in demand, and if it is elasticity of supply, then we will say that more change in supply. So since examiner is saying how much more will be supplied to the market, right? So PES is 1.5, it means there will be more than proportionate change in quantity supply. So there are two options that are no, there is only one option that shows greater change in quantity supply than the change in price. So change in price is 20%, so there should be greater change in quantity supplied, that is 30%. Okay, so you can verify this as well. So price elasticity of supply is equal to percentage change in quantity supply over percentage change in price. If percentage change in price is 20% that examiner has given, and if we pick 30% change in quantity supplied, then 30 by 20% is equal to 1.5. So sign will be positive because price elasticity of supply is always positive. 30 divided by 20, you can cross percentage sign with percentage sign, 0 with 0, 3 over 2 is equal to 1.5. So option D will be the correct answer. And you can also calculate this value as well. So let me explain you that as well. It will take a little more time, but let's see how to figure out why should be 30% the answer. So percentage change in quantity supply over 20%. So this is the formula for this PES. So we have value PES, you can just plot the value of PES here, that is 1.5. so 1.5. So we can cross multiply these values, and we will multiply these values. So percentage change in quantity supply is equal to 20% into 1.5 is equal to 30%, right? So you can use calculator as well. Moving to the other question, that is question number 10, and question number 10 says butter is a normal good and it is in joint demand with bread, right? So jointly demanded goods are the goods that are complement to each other. If we purchase one thing, we have to purchase the other as well. So jam and bread as well as butter and bread are complementary to each other, right? Generally in breakfast, what people do is they use bread and butter, right? So they are jointly demanded goods. And then is an in joint supply with buttermilk, right? Buttermilk is the kind of drink that is basically made when we withdraw butter from milk, right? So like generally we call it lassi. So it is lassi. So lassi depends upon, or buttermilk depends upon, the supply of butter. If more butter is supplied, then buttermilk also will be supplied more. The demand for butter increases because of rise in consumers' income. So if consumers' income increases, if they purchase more butter, then they will purchase more bread as well, because bread is complementary to that. Okay, why it happens? Because when people purchase more butter, the demand for bread will increase. So we can make the graph for bread. So this graph is for bread. So this is demand of bread, supply of bread, equilibrium takes place at E, where price is P and quantity is Q. So when butter is demanded more, there will be more demand for bread as well, because of being complementary goods. So equilibrium will move from E to E1, price will rise from P to P1, and quantity will increase to Q1. So the price of butter has increased. So price of butter has increased. So option C and D can be correct. So we can cross these two figures. Now moving to the buttermilk, what will happen to the price of buttermilk, right? So when more butter is supplied, जैसे जितना ज़्यादा बटर निकालेंगे, मक्खन निकालेंगे दूध में से, उतना ज़्यादा लस्सी प्रोड्यूस होगा. So the supply of buttermilk will increase because of increase in supply of butter. So supply of buttermilk will increase and shift to the right from S to S1. Equilibrium will move from E to E1, quantity will rise from Q to Q1, and price will fall from P to P1. So this is the graph of buttermilk. So supply of buttermilk increased and price of buttermilk decreased. So we will choose option C, because in option D it says increase. So final option will be, correct answer will be C. And now moving to question number 11. Again, if you don't understand this question or any other question, then please get back, and you may contact me on WhatsApp number as well, so I can immediately voice note you for the explanation of a certain question. The diagram shows a comparative market in equilibrium with price P and quantity Q. So this is the equilibrium, quantity is Q and price is P. Which area represents the producer surplus? So this is a really simple question. Producer surplus is the area between equilibrium price and above the supply line. So this will be the area of producer surplus. So option A is correct answer straight away. And if examiner asks about consumer surplus, then consumer surplus will be this area, right? So this area is consumer surplus, this area. Okay, so now moving to the other question number 12, and a policy that aims to reduce degree of inequality of income will also reduce the level of employment in the country, right? So there is one option that will reduce inequality. Income inequality is when basically people have different incomes, like rich are rich and poor are very poorer. So we want to reduce that degree of inequality. We want to bring equality between income of rich and poor, and we also want to, but this will also reduce employment as well. So there are multiple policies, and out of these policies there is one policy that will reduce inequality, but it will also reduce unemployment as well. So the answer to this question number 12 is option A. The effective minimum wage is increased by 20%. So when you increase minimum wage is the wage that employers have to pay in each case to the workers, and if it is increased further to 20 by 25%, then there will be a reduction in inequality between the rich and poor, because industrialists will have to pay more wages now and the working class will get more wages. So as a result, this working income of this working class will go up a little bit, and the profit and income of the rich class industrialists will decrease. So there will be more equality of income and inequality will reduce. But how will it reduce employment or increase unemployment in the country? So we can look into its graph. Let's have a look on its graph, and the graph will look like this. So this is like quantity, origin point, and we have price on Y. Price on instead of price we will use wages, because the price of labor is known as wages instead of price. So this is on X, we have quantity of labor and this is wage. This is demand of labor and this is supply of labor. Equilibrium takes place at this point, and wage rate is W and employment is Q. And minimum wage, keep in mind, is the wage rate that is set by the government above equilibrium, and maximum wage is set below equilibrium. So since this is minimum wage, so minimum wage is set above equilibrium. Let's say it's W1. So when wage rate increases to W1, inequality will reduce because now people are getting more income, but it will reduce the demand of labor as well, because at W1 demand of labor is now Q1, that has decreased as compared to the previous time. So unemployment will increase because less workers are demanded by the employers. And look into the other options as well. If there is any confusion, then please get back to me. And now moving to question number 13. Video is getting very longer, so let me move a little quicker and focus on only the correct answer now. Question number 13 is explain what explains the underproduction of merit goods, right? So merit goods are the products that are beneficial to the consumers as well as the third party. Like why people underconsume them, right? Generally people don't have sufficient information about the usefulness of these goods, so they underconsume them. Demerit goods are overconsumed because of market information failure, and merit goods are underconsumed because of information failure. So option A is the correct answer. Their value is not fully understood by the consumers because consumers don't realize the true benefits of merit goods, so they underproduce them. And read other options as well. If you have any confusion, then please get back to me. And now moving to question number 14. A country uses an income tax under which the first $10,000 of income is tax free, the next $20,000 is taxed at 20%, and any income over $30,000 is taxed at the top rate of 40%. It also levies a sales tax of 10% on most products, right? So these are the conditions given by the examiners. So what is the requirement? Which combination of tax changes is most likely to create more equal distribution of income in the country? Keep in mind, for more equal distribution of income tax should be higher on the top income earners. So option B will be the correct answer because it is kind of progressive tax. A higher top tax rate mean the people who have high income, they should be taxed high as well as a percentage of income. So tax percentage on high income earners is high, so their disposable income will decrease, and low income earners will be low and their disposable income will rise. So it will reduce income disparities, income gap between the rich and poor, and it will bring more equal distribution of income. And sales tax should reduce because sales tax is always regressive by nature, so it affects the low income group a lot. So if it is reduced, then low income group will be benefited from that. So it will also lead to more equal distribution of income because the purchasing power of these people, like low income group, will rise when sales tax or indirect tax is low. So for more equal distribution of income, indirect tax or sales tax should reduce, and income tax should increase because that will be charged more on the high income earners. Moving to question number 15, the table shows real GDP expressed as an index number in each quarter of 2021. This is index of GDP in real terms 2020 as 100. So basic index is always taken as 100. Keep in mind, if examiner doesn't mention that, still we consider that basic index is always 100. So these are 4 quarters. Quarter means 3 months time. So this is the first 3 months, second 3 months, third 3 months, and fourth 3 months. So there are 12 months in a year, so there are 4 quarters. What can be concluded from this table, right? So option C is correct answer for this question, because when index goes below 100, that is 99.4 and 99.3, in these 2 years, these 2 quarters, index has gone below the 100 index. Basic index means there is recession or fall in GDP of the country. So recession is basically the fall in GDP of the country. It says the economy was in recession at the end of the first two quarters or first 6 months time. 2 quarters are 6 months time. So quarter 1 and quarter 2 will collectively make 6 months. So in these 2 months you can see that it is below 100 index. So when it is below 100 index, it means GDP of the country is falling and it is going into recession. Why other options are incorrect? Inflation reduced the real value of money, right, in the first six months of 2022. So we basically don't know about the inflation rate, and these figures like might not be representing the impact that is showing in option A. And real GDP was lower at the end of 2021 than 2020. So it is again not correct always, because real GDP was lower at the end of 2021. So this is the 2021, and before this is 100. So like it says that real GDP was lower at the end of 21. This is the end of 21, and this is the end of 21, and this was the end of 2020 was 100, end of 2020 was 100, and 2021 is 104. So it is not lesser, lower, it is greater. The standard of living was higher at the end of 21 than 2020. So we are not sure about that, because the GDP index has increased, but we don't know the other factors. There are so many other factors that affect standard of living of the country, like birth rate, death rate, positive, negative externalities, pollution, birth rate, death rate, medical facilities. There are so many things that affect standard of living. So we can't basically evaluate on the basis of index only. And question number 16 says, what is least likely to cause simultaneous increase in demand pull and cost push inflation? Right, so least likely mean which is like less likely to be possible. So for this question, number C is the correct answer, because it is least likely to cause increase in demand and cost push inflation. Because decrease in spending on infrastructure, if government spends like less on infrastructure, then aggregate demand falls, and when aggregate demand falls, demand pull inflation will increase. So this is on X we have real GDP, and this is aggregate demand, and this is aggregate supply, and this is the price level on y-axis. So initial equilibrium is, let's say, E, where price level is P and real GDP is Y. So when government spending decreases, aggregate demand will decrease, so aggregate demand curve will shift to the left. Equilibrium will move to E1, where price level will decrease to P1 and real GDP will fall to Y1. So demand pull inflation is decreasing instead of increasing. But why aggregate demand will decrease? Because of decrease in government spending. Aggregate demand is calculated as AD is equal to C plus I plus G plus X minus M, right? So G is government expenditure, and when government expenditure is decreasing, it means aggregate demand should decrease, because if right hand side decreases, left hand side should also decrease. So this is the least likely thing. Other things are more likely to cause both demand pull and cost push inflation. For example, if we talk about depreciation of currency will make imports expensive, so price of import increases, so it may cause cost push inflation. And price of export falls, so aggregate demand may rise because of this, because when exports are cheaper, more exports may occur, and aggregate demand may rise, and demand pull inflation may be caused. And increased wages, when wages are high, it may increase cost push inflation, because now employers will have to pay more wages, and when they have to pay more wages, cost of production will rise, and cost push inflation may be caused because of fall in aggregate supply. And when wages are high, people are earning more, so they may demand more, consumption may increase, aggregate demand may increase, and inflation may be caused. So option C is the best option, right? And now moving to question number 17, and again the video is getting longer and longer, but we have to explain the necessary things, so you must have patience and continuously watch this video if you want to get maximum benefit out of it. And question number 17 is, according to the circular flow of income, what would be an immediate result of an increase in the value of exports? When exports increase, then it will increase the national income of the country. National income is another name of GDP, basically. So GDP is calculated with the same formula as aggregate demand, that is equal to C plus I. C stands for consumption, I is investment, G is government expenditure, X is export, and M is import. So when export increase, then this part will increase, exports are higher, so GDP will also increase. And GDP is another name of proxy of national income. So national income will increase. And now moving to question number 18. If you are confused with any other option, then please write in the comment and I'll get back accordingly. Question number 18 says, to calculate unemployment rate, the number of unemployed is related to the total labor force. Option D is the correct answer. Labor force include all the people who come under the age of 18 and 65 and they are willing and able to work. And all other options are incorrect. Total number of full-time employment, this is not basically used to show the number of unemployed people. And the number, because unemployment rate is calculated as number of people unemployed divided by labor force into 100. And the number of unemployed who are seeking for work, this is basically not that much related, because number of unemployed who come under this age and looking for work may be the par. And option A is the total adult population aged 18 and 65. It is not always correct, because there may be many people between 18 and 65 who are willing and able to work, but they are getting full-time education, or they may be mentally and physically handicapped, or they may be voluntarily unemployed, so they are not the par of unemployment. So number of unemployed include the total population in labor force. In labor force mean all those people who are willing and able to work, and they come under the age range of 18 and 60, and they are actively searching for jobs. Now question number 19. Aggregate demand in an economy may decrease as a result of an increase in. So aggregate demand, as I told you earlier for 2 times in this paper as well, aggregate demand is equal to C plus I plus G plus X minus M. So you can easily find out which of them can decrease aggregate demand. So option C is the correct answer. So aggregate demand is equal to C plus I plus G plus X minus M, right? So why aggregate demand may decrease? Demand in an economy may decrease as a result of increase in imports. If imports increase, then this negative figure will rise, and when this negative figure increases, overall aggregate demand will decrease, right? When overall aggregate demand decreases, then it shifts to the left as well. So increase in import expenditure, that is minus M figure, will decrease overall aggregate demand. All other options will increase aggregate demand, because if there is increase in consumption will increase aggregate demand. This is basic rule of math. If right hand side is increasing, left hand side will also increase. And increase government expenditure, if government expenditure increase, aggregate demand will again increase, right? If investment increase, this is investment increase, then aggregate demand will also rise. So this is how you can figure it out. Question number 20 is, a government has a balanced budget, it decides to increase its spending by 10%, right? So balanced budget is basically the summary of income and expenditure. So budget is equal to government revenue minus government spending or expenditure, right? And deficit budget is when revenue is lesser than expenditure, like government is spending more and earning less, so that is budget deficit, right? So already it has balanced budget, mean revenue and expenditure are equal, they are same. Now what happens is it decided to increase its spending by 10%, right? So again, if 10% spending or expenditures are increasing, then which increase in government revenue would cause surplus, right? So there should be more than 10% increase in revenue. If government wants surplus budget, then revenue should be greater than its expenditure. So if revenue expenditure are increasing by 10%, there should be more than 10% increase in government revenue. So 20% rise in government revenue and 10% rise in government expenditure will give us overall positive impact of 10%. When budget is positive, it is called surplus, and when budget is negative, it is called deficit. Okay, so question number 21 is about macroeconomics, and it says that an economy has unemployment rate of 8%, increase in 2% from the previous year, right? So it means there was 6% increase, there 6% unemployment in the previous year, now it is 8%, so 2% has increased. And at the same time, the current account deficit rose from 3% to 4% of GDP. So what would be most likely to reduce both unemployment and current account deficit? Okay, so there is one policy that is most likely to reduce unemployment, right? Reduce unemployment and reduce current account deficit. Okay, so option B is the correct answer for this question. Depreciation of currency. When currency depreciates, exports get cheaper, price of export fall, and so demand for exports will increase. Quantity demand for exports will increase. I'm using X for exports. So total revenue from exports will rise, and price of imports will rise because of depreciation. When currency depreciates, its value decreases, imports get expensive, so demand for imports will fall. So total expenditure on imports will also fall. When export earning is high, import payment is low, we will come out of deficit, like we may move to surplus as well. And similarly, when currency is depreciating, exports are cheaper, demand for export is increasing, so as a result, export industry will flourish and it will employ more workers, demand for workers will increase, and as a result, unemployment will be reduced. So you can read all other options. If there is any ambiguity in any of the options, then you can write in the comment and I'll get back. And moving to question number 22, and the diagram shows aggregate demand curve in an economy that has shifted to the left. When aggregate demand shifts to the left, it is decrease in aggregate demand. And which combination is most likely? Like there can be more than one options that can be correct, but there is one option that is most likely to cause to shift from AD to AD1 to AD2, like decrease in aggregate demand. Keep in mind, when income tax increases, then aggregate demand falls, because now people have to pay more taxes and they will have less income, so as a result they will spend less, and when consumption falls, aggregate demand falls. And Sales tax should also increase. It will reduce purchasing power of the people and they will again buy less. So as a result, aggregate demand will overall fall. So we will cross option C as well. Question number 23 is what can be considered as an expansionary supply side policy? Supply side policy is the policy of the government that manipulates subsidies, indirect taxes, spending on education and training, trade union reforms. These are the kind of things that are part of supply side policy. And expansionary supply side policy is when government wants to increase aggregate supply in the country. So for question number 23, option A is correct answer. An increase in government expenditure on education and training. When government provides more education and training, people get more expert of things they do, and they are more efficient and productive. So as a result, they produce more and aggregate supply will rise. And all other options are incorrect. Increase in sales tax. If sales tax increases, that will be a kind of contractionary supply side policy. And increase in rate of interest. When interest rate increases, it is a monetary policy, not the supply side policy. Increase in exchange rate, this is also monetary policy, not supply side policy. So we will cross all these options. Option A is correct answer. Okay, so question number 24 says the table indicates the factor inputs required to produce wheat and cars in country X and Y. So read the question carefully, stop the video and then listen to the logic. So these are amount of inputs that are required to produce 1 ton of wheat and 1 car, right? So these are not units of cars, these are units of resources. To produce 1 ton of wheat, X requires 4 units of input and country X requires 8 units of input. Like country Y requires double quantity of like inputs to produce 1 ton of wheat as compared to X. And in this case, country X requires 3 times, like in this case 2 times more resources are required for country Y to produce 1 ton of wheat, and in this case country Y requires 3 times more resources to produce 1 car. It means country Y is not efficient in the production of cars because it requires 3 times more resources, and in this case it requires 2 times more resources. So it means that country Y has comparative advantage in the production of wheat as compared to cars. So option C will be the correct answer. Country Y has comparative advantage in wheat production, and definitely country X will have a comparative advantage in car production. So option C is correct answer out of these questions, these options. Now moving to question number 25, and a government decides to allow the country's currency to depreciate to remove the deficit on its current account of balance of payment. What is the most likely reason why this would not work, right? Like government wants to correct deficit by depreciation of currency, through depreciation of currency, but depreciation does not result in correcting the deficit of or removing the deficit of current account of balance of payment. So which option is the most suited for this question? So option D is the most suited. There are high barriers, trade barriers with the country's main trading partners. When there are high trade barriers, then it means the fall in value of currency will not increase exports. Depreciation basically is when value of currency decreases against another currency and it makes exports cheaper. So price of exports falls and quantity demand for export increases and total revenue from export also increases. This is the basic phenomena if everything is normal. But depreciation that happens to correct the deficit by increasing total revenue from exports will not correct deficit of current account if there are high trade barriers with the main trading partner countries. Mean you can't export them more quantity of goods and services. So as a result, depreciation will not benefit for you. And all other options will work to correct balance of payment deficit. So D will not correct it. Question number 26 is when must terms of trade of a country change? Terms of trade, keep in mind, terms of trade is equal to price of export over price of import into 100. So From this formula we came to know that only prices of exports and imports influence terms of trade. So option D is correct answer, when the average price of export rises and average price of import falls. When average price of import falls, denominator will further decrease and numerator will increase because of rise in price of export. So the answer of terms of trade will further increase. All other options are incorrect, because when the volume of export falls, terms of trade has nothing to do with volume or quantity. When the total value of export, nothing has to do with value of exports, it just deals with the prices of exports and imports. When the balance of trade in goods removes deficit surplus, this is again not necessary because it depends upon many other conditions. So option D is correct answer, because terms of trade is the price of export divided by price of import into 100. So price of export and import will impact the term of trade. Moving to question number 27. And question number 27 says the table shows an extract from a country's balance of payment, and what is the current account balance. So current account balance will be exports minus import. Current account balance will be value of exports minus value of imports, right? So focus on my voice instead of writing. So you can just add these values, right? Exports in billions, and what are those? Just let me calculate it for you, and just a second. So we have a calculator here. Exports are like 150 plus 70 plus 120 plus 15, and they make like 355 overall, right? And now you can calculate imports. These are the imports, right? So imports are like 200 plus 50 plus 120, 120. So this is 370, right? 370. So 355 minus 370 is equal to minus 15 billion, right? So minus 15 billion will be the answer. So this is deficit. When negative, the answer is negative, it is deficit balance of payment, right? So balance of payment or balance of trade, this is negative shows deficit and positive shows surplus. So I believe you got this idea. Question number 28 says the table gives the goods balance and services balance for a country in selected years. These are the years 2015 to 2019, and this is goods balance and this is services balance, right? So between which years did the overall goods and services balance change the most? Like, it is changing every year, but he is asking when does it change the most, right? So in 2015, balance of trade will be 120 minus 30 is equal to 90, 110 minus 30 is equal to 80, 50 minus 10 is equal to 40, and 130 minus 60 is equal to 70, and 140 minus 50 is equal to 90, right? So now you have to find the change as well, right? So change kitna? So the change from this year to this year is just 10, change from this year to this year is 40, and from this year to this year it is 30, and from this year to this year this is 20. So the most change is that is 40 in this year. So in this year there is the most change. 40 is the most change, I think. Yeah, the biggest change is 40, from 80 to 40. Yeah, this range shows the most change. So option B will be the correct answer, because from 2016 to 2017 it is occurring. So option B is correct answer. Question number 29 says that the diagram shows the market for both domestic and imported computers. For an economy, the world price is P1. So this is domestic supply, this is like international supply. So the equilibrium is initially at this point E, where quantity is Q1 and price is P1. This is the condition given by the examiner. Then which government policy would lead to a price of P2, like why price of P2 will increase? So it is only possible if supply decreases from this to this, like S2, and new equilibrium takes place at this point and price will increase to P2 and quantity will fall to Q2. So since supply is moving leftward, when supply moves leftward, that is called decrease in supply, and decrease in supply is caused by like multiple factors, and we have to identify that factors, and that is option D, a tariff on imports. If tariff on imports increases, then imports get expensive. Since tariff is an indirect tax, so it decreases supply and supply curve shifts to the left. Why other options are incorrect? An embargo on imports. Embargo is complete ban. When there is complete ban, then there should be no supply, but in this case you can see that this much supply is coming from international market. And exchange rate appreciates, it is not correct in this case, because appreciation of currency will make imports cheaper and supply may rise. And subsidy to the domestic producers, if more subsidy is given, then supply should have shifted to the right instead of going to the left. So this is why other options are incorrect. And the last question is 30. What is not a likely cause of a deficit in current account of balance of payment? Right. So all other options are the cause of deficit. There is one option that is not the cause of deficit, and that is consumer spending is low. If consumer spending is low, it is not the cause of deficit, because deficit should be caused if consumer spending is high, because people will be spending more on imports possibly, so deficit may be caused. But in this case, if consumer spending is low, it means it is like expenditure reducing policy. So when expenditures are low, deficit may also decrease. And the other, looking into the other options, primary incomes in the form of investment income are low. If primary incomes are low, then deficit will be caused. Examiner is saying what will not cause, so we can't choose this option. The rate of exchange is high. When exchange rate is high, it like may cause deficit, because it increases price of exports, so exports may fall and imports may rise because of low prices of imports. So this is again incorrect option. And wage costs of production are high, right? If wage costs of production are high, then it means now people are earning more income and they should purchase more, possibly purchase more imports, and deficit may be caused. So this is the option, only option A, that is not likely to cause deficit. All other options will cause deficit, so we will choose option A. And this is it for this class, and I'll try to make another video today by tonight, maybe late night, that will contain important questions or important topics that may be tested and how they may be tested in the final examination. So I'll explain all of them, inshallah. So see you with the next video, and best wishes for all of you for exam P1 exam tomorrow, and Allah Hafiz.